Committee to order, please.
Chairman, we're now live and we can start the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. A warm welcome to all those attending or viewing us on Council's YouTube channel, Hillingdon, London. My name is Councillor Henry Higgins and I'm the Chairman of this committee. Details of business to be considered today are shown on the agenda, and copies of which are accessible under the broadcaster over in the corner in the room. For those presenting in the room and attending to speak, please note that you will be filmed and any statement you make will be recorded and made public. A reminder to anybody speaking today that your voice will only be audible online when the microphone is switched on. We're not expecting a fire alarm or drill, so if it does go off, please follow officers out of the building. Mobile and tablet devices, for those in the room, can you please switch them off or on silent? You will see that councillors on the committee and officers will be using our laptops. We are trying to become a paperless committee. I'll go through the attendees now. Before we move to the agenda, I'd like to introduce the councillors and then officers. Councillor Wayne Bridges, welcome. Councillor Gohill. Councillor Chubadar, no you're not Councillor Gohill. Councillor Mand, thank you. Councillor Sansapori, Councillor Singh. My officers made up today is Kate Crosby, sitting next to me here, Area Planning Service Manager. Max Smith, who might be going up and down a bit because he's got a bad back, so don't think he's actually getting frustrated with me or the committee or yourselves. So there you go. Hayden's not here today, so we've got Ross Johnson, who is Head of Planning. So that's very good. Stepped in. That's nice. That makes us nervous, doesn't it? And we got someone new here today. Welcome. Is Chris Athon. Is that correct? Probably not. He's our planning officer. So forgive me for my. I think it's Greek, isn't it? I beg your pardon. Anne Griffiths. Welcome again. Jimmy Walsh, our legal advisor, and I'm lucky enough to have two. So obviously, as they said earlier, I must be messy because I need two on me, which is Sharia Ashad, legal advisor. Thank you. And Liz Penny, who tells me what to do if I do something wrong, from Democratic Services. We'll go straight to the agenda. Apologies for absence, please.
Apologies have been received from Councillor Darren Davis with Councillor Wayne Bridges substituting.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bridges, for stepping in. Also, declarations of interest matters coming before the committees. Anybody got any declarations? Nope. Okay. Can we agree to sign the minutes of the previous meeting? Yes, Councillor Gohill.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick thing I noticed, Councillor Singh's mentioned twice on the council members present, if that could be amended.
Yes. He's very good. He's worth two of us, I know, but welcome, sir. And now we go to confirm that all items in business part one today, so there's nothing in part two, so everything will be held in public. So we'll go to the first application, which is the Children's Home in Charville Lane, Hayes.
Thank you, Chair. Agenda item 6 refers to Charville Children's Home in Hayes. The application is made by Hillingdon Council and seeks planning permission for the redevelopment of the existing children's home to provide new build residential institution development. The scheme proposes the demolition of the existing children's home and the erection of 3 two-storey buildings, providing accommodation for 12 young people and 6 household staff, and an educational building. There's also associated hard and soft landscaping, communal and private garden areas, and a multi-use games area. The site is located within a residential area with access off Charville Lane. The area is characterised by a mix of flatted developments to the west on Heatherwood Drive, detached dwellings along Charville Lane to the east, the semi-detached dwellings to the northeast on Palomino Close, and to the north on Blake Close there are mainly terrace dwellings. Open fields lie to the south of the site. In terms of constraints, the site lies outside of the green belt, which is located adjacent to the south and east, which is shown on the slide in green. Not shown on the site lies within a critical drainage area and an area at high risk of surface water flooding. There is also a belt of trees along the frontage which is protected by Tree Preservation Order 24, which covers all oak trees. So just to provide some orientation of the site, we'll just go through a few photos, starting with the aerial photos. So you can see here the site boundaries, which is edged in red, and the surrounding residential and context of the site there. Next we have a photo taken from the frontage. So this is just a view from Charville Lane, which shows the access and the principal elevation of the existing building. Next we have a photo of again from Charville Lane, which shows the belt of the protected trees just in front of the site. Next we have a view from Ridings Lane, which is located just east of the site. So this is taken southeast, looking into the site. Next photo is taken further up Ridings Lane, so towards the north of the site, and then facing sort of southeast, looking into the site. Here we have a view from Blake Close, which is taken from the north, so facing south towards the site. You can see just the existing building just square in front of the picture. And finally, a photo of this taken from Heatherwood Drive, which is from the west, looking into the site, again with the existing building just in the centre of the photo. So the existing building is a part 2-storey and part single-storey building. As you can see from the site plan, it occupies quite a large footprint within the site. Currently the children's home accommodates 13 children, and there are 14 staff that look after the children, and there's a total of 16 people staying overnight. So moving to the proposal, the site plan. So as mentioned before, the scheme proposes demolition of the existing children's home, and it's going to be replaced by two rows of terraces which face onto the communal garden area and the multi-use games area. These are referred to as houses A to C and E to G on the site plan. So in total, the residential accommodation comprises two 2-bed units, 2 3-bed units, and 2 4-bed units, and that includes 1 member of staff in each unit. So in total, there would be 18 people, which comprises 12 young people and 6 household staff staying within the accommodation. So that equates to a reduction of 1 young person and an increase of 3 staff staying in the children's home. Each residential unit would be provided with a private amenity space for use by future occupiers. In the corner of the site, towards the northern corner, is the educational building that's referred to as Building D. That's going to be used solely in connection with the main use of the site as a children's home, and it would be restricted, so it's just going to be an ancillary facility to the main use of the site. Condition 17 has been added to restrict the use of the overall site as a C2 children's home, so it won't allow any changes to the proposed use as is existing. And the educational building would be conditioned to be restricted as part of the overall use of the site, and that's by condition 18. So you can see from the siting and the site plan, the siting and layout have been carefully considered, and the way the development has been presented, it follows the established building lines and the development pattern of the area. No residential neighbouring impacts are envisaged as a result of the development due to the appropriate siting of the development and the separation between the proposed buildings and the neighbouring buildings. Noise levels are envisaged to be similar to the existing situation. As discussed in the officer's report, it is considered that the development will not impact on neighbour amenity. The two terraces are also provided with a 21-metre separation gap to ensure no overlooking of future occupiers, and by facing onto the communal areas, surveillance within the site is also improved. Turning to parking, 20 parking spaces are proposed, which includes 2 disabled spaces as set out on the site plan. 20% of the spaces would be provided with active electric vehicle charging points, and the remainder with passive electric vehicle charging points. The scheme has been informed by a transport statement which identifies this level of parking provision on a needs basis. 12 cycle store spaces also provided next to the educational building, and access of Trivell Lane would be retained. As detailed in the officer's report, no objections raised by the Highway Authority, subject to a travel plan which is secured by condition 10. Refuse and recycling bins are provided adjacent to the access, which allows ease of collection from Trivell Lane. So just turning to the proposed floor plans, each residential unit would be provided with staff facilities and suitable living accommodation over 2 floors, and disabled access by way of level access, and lifts provided within 3 of the units, which are houses B, C and F, ensures equality of access and opportunity for disabled children. So we just see the first floor plan, which shows the bedroom accommodation, and the roof plan here. The proposed elevations, so here you can see the slide just shows the front and rear elevations of the educational building and the terrace to the rear of the site, and below there is a cross-section through the site when viewed from the west. Next slide shows the front and rear elevations of the terrace to the front of the site, and below there is an image of a section through the site when viewed from the east. And this slide shows the inside side elevations of the education building and the terrace to the rear, and below is another section through the site when viewed from the east, and that shows the finished floor levels and ground levels. Switching to perspective views, so as you can see, the design proportions and exterior materials of the development are considered to be characteristic of the surrounding residential context, where buildings are of a similar scale, appearance and materials palette. Indicative exterior materials consist of brickwork and slate tiles. However, a condition has been recommended to approve all exterior materials to ensure that development harmonises with the street scene. Here we see another perspective view from the frontage of Trivell Lane. So as discussed in the officer's report, the development is considered to be acceptable in terms of its impact on the character and appearance of the area. And this slide just shows another perspective of the communal garden in use by occupiers. So moving on to the tree protection plan, the application is supported by an arboricultural report and tree protection plan. Existing trees within the site would be retained, and tree protection measures, including protective fencing and site monitoring, will be undertaken to ensure protected trees are safeguarded during the demolition and construction process. These measures are secured by conditions 5 and 6. Finally, landscaping. So a full landscaping scheme has been put forward, which is shown on the slide. This includes new planting, additional trees, soft landscaping, new permeable surfaces, boundary treatments and enclosures, details of which would be approved by condition, and that's condition 4. So the application has generated a petition in objection with 120 signatories. The matters raised in the petition are discussed in section 6 of the officer's report. The matters raised have been considered in full, and section 7 of the report provides a detailed assessment of the material planning considerations. In officer's view, the scheme offers significant public benefits, including improving the living conditions for children staying at the children's home and enhancing the visual amenity of the site through significant landscape improvements and improvements in the overall built form. So to conclude, officer's recommendation is to approve the application subject to the conditions detailed in the officer's report and in the addendum sheet. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, President. Okay, so we have a petition, obviously. Mrs. Chow, would you like to come? Miss Chow, sorry. The only Chinese I know is Wei. If you'd like to come up here and to sit down for me, please. Good evening. Hello, then. Let me just explain a few things. Ms. Chow, before you start, you have to press the red button. You have 5 minutes near the microphone. Councillor Singh, could you just show the lady? Okay, you have 5 minutes. You have a traffic light scheme, 4 minutes on green, 1 minute on amber, and red, I will stop you. And please don't think I'm rude, but I will stop you, okay?
So thank you for inviting me. Good evening, everybody. My name is Susan Chow. I have lived in Heatherwood Drive for the last 17 years. I'm here to represent Charwood Lane neighbourhood and Heatherwood Drive. My main objections are, firstly, the current children's centre is a single dwelling plus 2-floor building. This is to be demolished and replaced by, from the plan, 6 big houses. Now, these constitute half of the rooms are for unaccompanied children, so-called children, up to the age of 18, and half are for homeless person, young person, up to the age of 18. My point is, the fact that these two groups, 6 plus 6, does not constitute a single household. Beyond the need for accommodation, support, and resettlement, thus, it constitutes a material change to the existing use as a children's home. The second point I'd like to make is that there is overbuilding. This plan shows that there are something like 6 kitchens, 6 living rooms, 6 for each staff for each bedroom, and visitors room, and it is massive overbuilding for a simple accommodation of 12 young persons. There are case law to say that in Birmingham Corporation against the Ministry of Housing and Habit and other cases support the fact that the mix of the two uses, does constitute a material change. The homeless children addition is not an ancillary to the main use as a children's home. The second point I'd like to make is that it is overbuilt. It has all the multi-game area, 6 living rooms, and all the facilities to the existing school to such a degree that it amounts to intensification of the existing use. So the case law, as far as I'm concerned, support the fact that this is an overbuilt and this is an intensification to the existing use as a children's home. The third point I'd like to make is that the noise, Heatherwood Drive is a couple of meters away from the existing children's home. We will be impacted by noise with the increase in activities, not to mention the congested traffic and everything else. I can hear personally, having lived there for 17 years, in the afternoon, they're playing a basketball in the afternoon by the existing underage of 16 children. I wouldn't know what the noise will be when there are double the amount of people and in the new build. The next point I'd like to make is, apart from the noise, there's the pollution. Heatherwood Drive is only a couple of meters away from the children's home. There are up to 100 occupants in Heatherwood Drive, and some are old, like myself. We are vulnerable. I've had asthma, and some have breathing difficulties. This constitution will expose the occupants to an unacceptable air, i.e. dust, from the construction and the pollution fallout. Therefore, it is a threat to our health. Next point is the increase in traffic. There are 20 cars. It was 30 cars on the plan. They changed the plan. And visitors' cars on top coming into the area. The increase in traffic, will cause a congestion along Charwood Lane when the U7 and 195 pass through, with all these cars coming out of the existing children's home. Next point I'd like to make is that there's a safety element. We don't know where these children come from. You call them children, but after the age of 18, they are so-called homeless children. We don't know where they come from, but the plan described them as having behavioral problem. And they are obviously have been neglected, maybe exploited, allegedly. So I personally fear for my safety. Can you council guarantee my safety if one of them were to get out, even though under supervision? The next point I'd like to make is...
Thank you, Mrs. Chow. That your time is up now, I'm
Right.
afraid. Okay. Does any of the committee have any questions for Mrs. Chow? No? You may take a seat. Thank you. Can you turn the microphone... Oh, Councillor Singh, could you possibly do that for me? Thank you, Councillor Singh.
Thank you.
Okay, we have the applicant, Jenny Evans, and Mr. Chen. As I explained before, you have 5 minutes and traffic light system, okay? So if you want to divide your time up, then that's fine.
Good evening, Chair. Good evening, committee members. We're not here to make a speech of the scheme. So we've carefully reviewed the officer's report regarding the assessment of the petition, and we agree with the officer's assessment. So we're here to answer questions if committee members have any additional questions for us as as the applicant.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was the shortest speech I've ever had here. So that's amazing. You can turn that off. Thanks. Does any of the councillors have any questions? No? Sure? No? Okay. You're done. Thank you very much. They had their opportunity. Right, now we have ward councillors. Councillor Barry Nelson West. Would you like to come to thing? And remember, you only have 3 minutes because you're a councillor, and politicians speak enough, so 3 minutes is all you can have.
Thank you, Chair and the committee. As a local Charvel councillor, I have major concerns and reservations about the planning permission and application. As we've seen, the bills are 3 two-storey buildings to house up to 12 young people and 6 staff. Of course, on top of this, we've got the educational building and the multi-planning area. I see from the plans there are quite a lot of provisions in place already, including minimising noise and air qualities, greenhouse emissions, TPOs and types of building materials and landscape, etc. But I think more needs to be done. I am worried about the escalation of noise level because there's very different use of the space. I and the local residents would like assurances that the multi-use planning area would only be used by residents of the children's home and maybe not by anybody else. What assurance do the 120-odd people who signed the petition, I think that's the latest thing I had, have that in a few months' time that there might be or could be further changes and more extensions added on at a later stage? They're worried about the extra noise levels during any construction and later on by the young people eventually that inhabit the home. But I would like to highlight the increase in traffic would cause even more problems, and as I would not like to impact on the street parking. Do the plans cater for sufficient parking for the residents, staff and visitors, as we already have a problem with traffic on Charvel Lane, as Mrs. Chow has said. We suspect this is due to a car sales room showroom trading in cars which are parked all along Charvel Lane, very close to the junction of Bury Avenue, which I believe Councillor Davis is already looking into. We do not want more facilities that attract even more visitors and cars and cause more congestion and problems. To conclude, it is a bigger bill than was there before and is not in keeping to the beautiful green area, and I, on behalf of the local residents, would like assurances that their concerns are all taken into account before you make a decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Does anybody have any questions for the Councillor? No? Thank you very much. You want to take a seat? Thank you. Councillor Davis, if you'd like to come in. You know the rules.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Committee. Firstly, as the Charleville Conservative councillor, I just want to say that I understand there's a need for this type of project, but I am increasingly concerned that a project on this scale isn't needed in Charleville. As per the residents' petition, I have some serious concerns around the increased noise volume at the site. I understand it's already a children's home at the moment, but looking at the scale of these buildings, I would believe that there would be an increase in open noise volume compared to what we have at the moment. I have some concerns regarding the MUGA as well, and if the committee were to go with officer's recommendation, I would ask if we could add a condition around the time and use of the MUGA, either purely to be used solely by residents and not to be hired. A potential additional condition to go with no lighting on the MUGA, so that would prevent any use into later hours and no public hire. Looking at the report, the parking, I believe, may need to be reviewed, and I have some concerns whether that the travel plan is strong enough. Looking at what we have, the additional parking may not be adequate for the number of staff on site, including visitors and any healthcare professionals or social teams that may be attending the site. With that in mind, I would ask that we could review that and, as I've said, make sure it's strong enough, especially because I would not like to see any impact on the residents' parking within the area. I have some concerns over the refuge arrangements as well on the site. I would expect with the size and the number of staff living there as well, because that's increased, whether we would have further refuge collections. If so, would that have any impact on the residents? If so, can we look at a condition on that, if possible? And I'd like to see, with the environmental impact, a part of the construction management plan, if possible, to add something to prevent dust, for dust to cause any problems for the residents within the area. And my final point would be, I believe we need to add some more trees to the environment. This project, I understand, is needed. I'm not 100% sure it's needed within Charleville. There's 102 residents that believe this project should not go ahead. And as a councillor, I would not be doing my job if I wasn't fighting for our residents. I understand that we have an impact and we have numbers to reach, but our residents should come first. So I ask, if we are in favour of approving this, can we condition to ensure the residents are protected?
Councillor Davis.
Thank you.
Does any councillors have any questions for Councillor Davis? No? Thank you very much. Right, what I'm going to do is I will open it to the floor in just a second. I just want officers to come back with some of the points that petitioners have made and see if we can cover them out to give members a clearer view. After you.
Okay, I think the first issue was raised was whether the intensification of the use and whether it amounts to a change of use. So the use is remaining as a children's care home. It is for children that need special accommodation that's referred to through the council. So that remains unchanged. In terms of the numbers of use and the intensification, it's a reduction in the number of children that would be accommodated. So currently it's 11, so it'll be reduced down to 12. 13 down to 12. I know that it's been raised that now they're accommodated or would be in the proposed accommodation, a different form of accommodation, where currently it's one large building that they're all in, and this way they will be housed in separate units with individual staff that will be staying over in the units with them as well. Overall, I think our opinion, officers' opinion, is that it's a better form of accommodation. It provides a more safe, secure site as well. Everyone will have, or every child in all the children in the individual units will have their own private amenity space, the kitchens, living areas, as well as staff accommodation and a staff office in each unit. So we don't, in terms of intensification, it's essentially the same intensification, if not slightly less, because of the reduced number of children that would be accommodated. In terms of noise, this kind of impacts the noise as well. I know concerns have been raised with noise levels increasing in the outdoor areas. So currently the children use hard standing to the rear of the children's home. There's some mobile basketball courts that they play outside there, and also in the soft landscaped areas around the units. So this would be commensurate in terms of the numbers of children playing outside, 12 compared to 13. So we've got the mixed use games area that's there in the centre there. It's about 104 square metres, something like that. It's secured off. It'll be overlooked by the proposed dwellings. They overlook the courtyard, so it can be managed that way by staff as well. In terms of the numbers as raised before, it's the same number, if not slightly smaller. So the noise isn't expected to be any different than what currently is on site. I know pollution was raised. In terms of dust, there is, if I just draw members' attention to the addendum report, we've added a construction management plan, and there is a bit in there controlling dust. So there is a part where we ask for measures to reduce the impact of the development on local air quality and dust through minimising emissions through the demolition and construction process. And so that's covered there, as well as there's also referral to the applicant's obligations under environmental legislation, which would also cover that as well. Refuse. Come back to a couple of other things. But refuse, we have calculated the capacity that's been provided, and it is sufficient for what's been proposed. We have conditioned details for its appearance, though, and the shelter that will be accommodated in, and the types of bins. But we can relook at that when it does come in as the condition. But we are satisfied with the capacity that would be provided. Parking. The parking has been assessed by our Transport Highways officer. So they've submitted a needs assessment, a transport statement, basically saying that this is the amount of parking that would be required to accommodate the staff on site, and that's considered acceptable. And I think there was a question about whether we can add a condition, about the Muga not being hired out to anybody else, and we can add that on, and no lighting as well. We can add that condition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm going to go to the committee. Councillor Sansapori, Councillor Gohill.
One of the questions raised by the petitioner about the age, she said some of the people may be living there over 18. So can the officer clarify that? Because if they are over 18, we can't consider them as children.
They will have to be under 18. When they're 18, they become legal, but I will just get officers to...
Yes, that's correct, under 18.
No talking from the audience, please. Thank you. Yeah, it's up to 18. Okay. Do we know what the current mix is at the moment?
Of ages?
Yeah. Actually, the officers will know that. Do you know what the current ages that are at the moment in site? Not yet? Okay, fine. I know that it's a mixture anyway. Okay. Councillor Sensible, is that okay for you? Yeah. Councillor Gohill.
Thank you, Chairman. I actually think it's one of the most intricate reports I've read on my time in the committee. I understand, having heard from the applicants and the councillors and people who've spoken today, that it is a bit of a sensitive topic because of the intricacies around it. But at the same time, I think Councillor Davies mentioned that these type of projects are needed by the council as well. In my entire time with the committee, I've never seen one with 19 conditions put on with an approval. So subject to an additional one about the Muga being put in a 20th condition, I'd like to go ahead and propose that we go ahead with officer's recommendation on this.
Thank you very much. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Troubadour.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to second the proposal.
Okay, I'm going to, before we go to the vote, I'm just going to add a few things. Landscaping, as you know, how keen I am on the particular plants that will be on site to reduce carbon dioxide, so that can be put into the condition. I don't think it's actually in there. I know there's a landscape thing, but if we can do that. The dust, I do understand that we've got that covered. Yeah, so that's fine. But my main thing was about the plantings and to add the Muga condition, which is a very good condition, and can we actually make sure the condition does state that it can't be rented out for other uses, yeah? And obviously, I'm not going to go with time scale on it, because we'll let the weather and the sunlight determine that, how kids can play, as we all do. I think it's a lovely application. I think it's so nice that they're actually, these people who have had troubles are having their own sort of house, as it were, and their own family. And I do appreciate that it's very disturbing to residents, but you know, we have a place there already, so I think in some ways it's better. So, on that note, with those extra conditions, can I have a show of hands those in favour of this application, please? So that is 100% in favour. That has been passed and is going across the reiteration of approval. Thank you very much. If people for that last petition would like to, they want to leave, can they leave quietly? And please don't congregate outside, because we still have a committee to continue. We're going to go to the next item, which is item 7, which is 28 Jacks Lane, Harefield.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready, mate.
Great, okay. Next application, 28 Jacks Lane in Harefield. Proposal is for the alterations to a garage roof, erection of a 3-storey side extension with balcony to the rear, balustrade, alterations to fenestration and demolition of a chimney. So the main proposal is the erection of a 3-storey side extension. There's the site. It's quite a sort of semi-rural location. It's also in the Copper Mill Dock Conservation Area. You see that's the lightly shaded hatched area there. Okay, this is plans of the existing of the house as it is presently. Now, planning permission was previously refused for a 3-storey side extension to this property. The main concern being the impact on the neighbouring property at number 27, in particular the impact on a particular bedroom window. So that was refused, and the council subsequently won the appeal against that refusal. The current scheme therefore responds to that refusal and substantially reduces the scale of the 3-storey side extension. So instead of being 1 metre setback as it was previously, it's now 3.8 metres setback from the front elevation. So it's quite significantly reduced in size. So there we are. That's the sort of general character of the area. You can see some photos. There's a house in the centre of the screen. You see 27, and just right on the right of the screen you can see the window that was affected. It's at 45 degrees facing partly towards the site, and so that's why it was considered to have when the extension was further forward, it would have a overbearing impact. Officers consider, however, that with the substantial extra setback, that's sufficient to overcome the concerns that were raised previously on the previous refusal. And on that basis, we are recommending approval.
Thank you, Max. Short and sweet. Obviously, some of us have been here before. We've seen this one before. We go now to the petitioner, which is Anna Cardos like to take a seat. As before, as soon as you turn on the mic, you've got 5 minutes. Green for 4, 1 for amber, and then I will stop you on red. Yeah, Max is going to do that for you. Yeah.
Dear Chairman, Councillors, Planning Committee members. I'm Ana Cardoso. I live at 27 Jacks Lane, as you can see on the slide there. The two-storey property next to this three-storey side extension, which is proposing to go from 6 bedrooms as they are today, and a 3-side extension, maybe an HMO, I don't know. And today I'm here to represent a 58-signature petition from the 38 houses in Jacks Lane. It's quite a small street, and we are against this petition. And because this is important, it matters to all residents. 15 of my neighbours are here today in support of this petition. As you know, this planning application was unanimously refused in the first Planning Commission in January, with the sole refusal reason of harm to that bedroom in 27. Please, slide 2. Subsequently, number 28 has seen their appeal to this decision being dismissed by the National Planning Inspectorate with additional refusal reasons not considered by planning, of loss of outlook from number 27 office window, harm to outdoor amenity space, and clearly identifying that the scheme will go against policies DMHB 11, DMHD 1, and consequently will significantly harm the living conditions of the occupiers of number 27. This additional harm identified by the planning inspector for the first application has not been addressed in the second application, therefore still applies. The main changes, as explained before, versus the first application is the reduction of the extension length at the front to supposedly follow the 45-degree rule from the middle of my bedroom window. Now, having measured this myself, I positively can state that is wrong, and also the location of the window in the drawing is wrong. However, no one has come to visit my property to neither confirm or deny it. Slide 3, please. I would like to start by clarifying to the case officer that my office window glaze has not been replaced since January committee, contrary to what your report implies. Instead, its original permanent clear glass was temporarily covered by a very common self-adhesive privacy film, which has since then been peeled off. So hence the difference in the pictures you've seen before. The harmful impact on the outlook from this office window identified by the inspector has been unaffected by the reduction of the extension at the front since the first planning application, contrary to what the case officer says in its report. As you can see in that arrow pointing at my office window, directly opposed to the extension. The inspector confirms that although to a lesser degree than the front bedroom window, due to the partially but not principal constraint aspect, the impact on the outlook from the office window, which is also the only window in the room, would still hold true, due to the extension height, proximity, bulk, looming appearance, and significant sense of enclosure. None of it has changed. Slide 4, please. In paragraph 8 of this report, the inspector agrees with number 27 that the height, which is unchanged, the bulk, which is unchanged at the rear, which is relevant here, and the proximity to the boundary, which is also unchanged, would have an overbearing impact on number 27 amenity space closest to the boundary. So even if number 27 has other amenity spaces, as has been stated by the case officer, and harmed by the scheme, of course, because they're not building around the whole house, I should not be asked to abdicate from any living conditions in the south elevation. I should not go living in the shady north side of my property to allow my neighbours to improve their living conditions at the cost of harming mine, unless we're wishing to state that my family is less deserving of living conditions than number 28. Slide 5, please. So the inspector, who has factually visited my property, has proven beyond doubt that my request of additional refusal reasons at the January committee was correct. So he says in this report that this goes against policies, again, DMHB 11, DMHD 1, and required that the development should not adversely impact the amenity of adjacent properties and open space, including there should be no unacceptable loss of outlook. He further concludes that the scheme would significantly harm living conditions in my property, and its modest public benefits would not outweigh significant harm caused. So for all these reasons and the unchecked 45-degree rule and the reasons they still maintain, I will ask you to please dismiss and refuse this application at once. I'm happy to hear any questions.
Thank you very much. And, is there any questions for the petitioner, councillors? No? You may take a seat. Thank you very much. Okay, the applicant, Mr. Ian Belcher. Is that right? Belcher, sorry, beg your pardon. As you're aware, you have your 5 minutes, green on 4, amber 1, and red, I will stop you whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Helen Pyman. I live at 28 Jacks Lane with Ian Belcher and our children. We have 6 in total between us. As stated, in January we applied to build a side extension to the property to increase our living space and to create an ideal home for our family with children. There is currently over an 8-metre gap between number 27 and number 28, far larger than any other house on the street, and every other property on the street has a gap of around 2.5 metres. In January, planning supported every part of our application with one exception, which was the potential loss of outlook and increased sense of enclosure from the bedroom window, which was angled at 45 degrees at the front of the property on the roadside. We've since worked very closely with planning and have resubmitted a new application that pulls back the extension by over 4 metres from the front of the property and is now well within the 45-degree angle of the angled window next door. Hillingdon Planning Department now supports and approves our application. We thank them for the effort that they put in. Everything was went through in great detail to dot every I and cross every T. We now have a solution, we believe, that allows us to extend our property whilst making sure that the impact to our neighbours is minimal and well within any normal expectations. And it's certainly not our desire to cause disruption to our neighbours and to the street. So we would request that we are supported in this application.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So, you know what? I just think this is a little bit sad. We're just a family. We're not doing an HMO. We're just trying to do a small extension for our kids. And I'm disappointed with the reaction that we've got from our neighbours. This extension should not be controversial in any way, shape or form. Yet we just seem to run into opposition left, right and centre for something that's very straightforward. Our neighbour has talked about sense of enclosure, overbearing. I mean, just to put it in context, there's an 8-metre gap currently between the properties. When the extension is done, there'll still be almost a 5-metre gap. That gap is twice as large as any other gap between the properties on the street. Let's just go to the next slide as well, please, if you could. So this is our neighbour's property at number 27. It's a beautiful property. They've done a lot with it, and well done to them. As you can see, though, they have an incredibly large frontage there, and they have a beautiful outlook over the canal. As is the house to the right. The extension is very secondary and absolutely has no impact on their living space whatsoever. Our house is recessed. Their view of the canal is not impacted at all. Previously, they've talked about invasion of privacy. I took that picture from the towpath opposite. No house on Jacks Lane has any privacy. Can we please go to the next page? I'm really disturbed about what's been going on with our neighbours. We feel we've behaved with dignity and respect. Just that comment about how it's going to get turned into an HMO, I find it actually really quite nasty, to be honest. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, and we've gone through the planning process. We've worked with Ros with an awful lot of detail. But it's fair to say I don't think people are playing by the rules. We talked about loss of privacy. We've had a security camera looking over our back garden for the last 6 months. That's our neighbour's security camera. I don't know if you know much about security cameras, but they're wide-angle lens. That camera looks over our entire back garden. I don't know what they want to do with it, but it's actually not pleasant, to be honest. Anyway, next page. I have 1 minute. So we're disappointed with how this has gone, but at the end of the day, we appreciate Ros for the work that she's put in. We're happy that we have a plan that works both for us and our neighbours, we would hope. And I'd just like to remind everybody on the National Planning Committee Framework guidelines that you have there. So decision makers at every level should seek to approve applications for sustainable development where possible. Our development is certainly sustainable. Paragraph 120 of the National Planning says that you should support opportunities to allow upward extensions. Of course, you're not taking out green space. Our extension, it goes upwards slightly. And also, paragraph 199, everybody on the street doesn't have children except for us.
Okay.
This application will encourage more balanced demographics.
Thank you. That's your 5 minutes. No comments from, please. No comments from the audience. There was no comments when you had your turn, please. Okay. Thank you. Has anybody, one second. Does anybody have any questions for the petitioner? No. Thank you very much. I know, Councillor Singh, you're in charge of that microphone. You're glad to hear that this is the last petition of the evening. So, but as a marathon man, that's nothing for you, is it? So we won't go down there. Right. We have a ward councillor now. Before, please come forward, Councillor Goddard. Before anybody gets Councillor Palmer had a major operation. She's in recovery. She is a one-ward councillor, so and Councillor Goddard is in charge with his fellow councillors for South Harefield as well, and helps Councillor Palmer out. So I've allowed Councillor Goddard to speak on behalf of Councillor Palmer. So whenever you're ready, sir, you have your 3 minutes, and we'll go from there.
Well, firstly, thank you, Chairman, for your indulgence in allowing me to speak in this matter. Number of observations I'd like to make on this case. Firstly, I would like to congratulate Ms. Cardozo, the lead petitioner, in terms of the eloquence, the clarity, and I think the persuasiveness of her arguments, which I fully endorse. Okay. Secondly, I think there are a number of particular features about this whole episode. As has been explained already, we had an earlier application which was heard by the committee back in January. That was refused with one reason for refusal. That was underpinned by the appeal, which went to the National Inspectorate, and indeed the Inspector identified two other issues, as Ms. Cardozo has said, which in his view should have been considered at the time. The issue that I have with all of this is that here we are with a second planning application, and actually it's all been based around the first one and the decision that was reached in the first one. My view, others may disagree with this, I fully understand that, but my view, having served on planning committees in the past, is that in isolation this planning application, this second application, should be considered. And so therefore, all possible reasons for refusal should be back on the table. And to be frank, I don't think they are. The first additional point I want to raise is that actually quite often I think planning applications are determined on subjective matters. It's the look and the feel, the alignment with the street scene, things like overbearing and so forth. However, if you look at the single reason for refusal, which came about from last time, this is a question of fact. It's about the 45-degree angle from the first floor bedroom window. Now, Ms. Cardozo has measured that. Okay, she says it's not correct in the report. I don't believe the case officer has actually performed that measurement. I would like to suggest that at the very least there is an adjournment and a site visit carried out in order to establish the facts here. But I do put it to the committee, actually there are compelling other reasons why this application should be refused. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goddard. Does anybody have any questions for Councillor Goddard? Nope. Thank you. You may take your seat. Thank you very much. And send our best wishes back to Councillor Palmer, please. Right. So I'll open it. I don't think you need to come. Does the officer need to come back on anything? No. No. Okay, fine. So yes, Councillor Singh, Councillor Gohill, Councillor Tubular. Go ahead, Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Chair and officers. Could you give us more detail about the 45-degree angles? Then give us more clarification about that.
Yes, we'll just bring up the proposed plan. So, Max, are you able just to... Oh, you can't zoom in, but can you just point to the top square? One, just above one more. Okay, so we can see there that in the image that Max is highlighting at the top there, you can see where the window is, the bedroom window, and then you have... Might be easier if I just stand and point. Okay, so this is the bedroom window here, and this is the extension. And so the 45 degrees measured from here shows that the extension doesn't go beyond that. So if it clears the 45-degree angle, then there wouldn't be an impact on outlook or sunlight daylight to that property.
Councillor Gohill.
Thanks, Chairman. Can you, just a question to the officers, can you show me on the picture of the house where this balcony is going to go exactly? Because I can't. It's a bit confusing when I looked at the presentation earlier myself. Sorry, could you show me on the actual house? I know it's not built yet, but if that would be helpful. I saw it on the site plan.
Okay, so you see the rear of the house. It's in the centre here. You can see the existing balcony here. The three-story extension would be to the side, so the new balcony would be at similar sort of level to that one that's existing.
And can I have a follow-up to the Chairman? Thank you. Did officers go back to the site following this and measure the 45-degree angle from the balcony? Well, from the proposed balcony, rather.
Yeah, if I could just come in there. So what I would say is that within the representations it has been alleged that the 45-degree line is incorrect. What I would say was that there wasn't any specific evidence as to how that line may be incorrect. Officers have referred to the plans and we're confident that it's correct, assuming the plans are drawn correctly. What I would say is it's not something that we would do as standard in a planning application to, go out on site and check every window is plotted in exactly the right place, and with that, in the absence of any specific evidence, highlighting a specific concern. So I suppose that's the situation that we're in. I think it's probably important to say as well that this, the alignment of these houses is a little bit unusual. So you wouldn't necessarily automatically apply the 45-degree rule in this case. The reason that it has been drawn attention to here is because when we had discussions with the applicant as to how they might be able to overcome our previous concerns, it was clear that you would need to set the extension back. And I actually suggested that it might be sensible to apply the 45-degree line as a sort of rule of thumb, rather than just sort of picking, a particular depth out of the air as such. So that doesn't fully answer your question, but hopefully that explains some context.
Councillor Tubular.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The point about the property becoming an HMO in future, is there anything we could put in as a condition to prevent it from becoming an HMO in future?
As you're aware, that needs a licence and have to come back to the committee for that to happen. So the answer to that is it should be in section 4 anyway. I'll let officers to check.
I don't think the officers can answer it. They do it. It's like correction.
Yep, so just to clarify, so it is possible to convert a dwelling to a HMO without planning permission, and that can be up to 6 unrelated individuals. So we wouldn't usually impose a condition to prevent that without planning permission. However, if members felt that that was necessary, it's something that you could do.
There you go.
On that case, could the officers put a condition in
Yes, they can.
against it becoming a HMO?
Yeah, that's right. You can take that privilege away. That's no problem. Councillor Gohill.
Thank you, Chairman. This application doesn't quite sit right with me. Still, I was here in January. I was sitting on the committee when the previous application came through and we voted on it accordingly. And whilst I appreciate both sides of the argument, you know, family on one side and overbearing loss of output, which was the rejection reason last time as well, I'm not entirely convinced that this application in its current format does respect the privacy of the neighbours next door. But I actually, if I can, I'd like to make a suggestion to follow Councillor Goddard's recommendation for a site visit, if that's okay with you, Chairman.
That's okay with me, but someone has to second that. Who's going to? Councillor Troubadour?
Yeah, I do agree with the proposal. I think a site visit should clarify the 45-degree angle, and it's been raised by petitioner, councillor, and it will be worth a site visit.
Okay.
I second that site visit.
Thank you very much. That goes to... Oh, sorry, Councillor Mand.
Just wanted to make a small comment. Again, I was going to come back to the 45-degree angle. It seems to be very contentious, so I do agree with the comments made by my fellow councillors. I think it would be a sensible idea to go and get the 45-degree angle measured physically rather than rely on a planned drawing. So
Okay,
I do concur with that.
That's brilliant. We're all in sync here. So those in favour of a site visit, please show your hands. So that's unanimous, the site visit for that one. So that will come back again to the committee. If you wish to petition again, you have to redo your petition, get your signatures for you to speak on the second item when it comes back. So just warn on that. So our officers will make a site visit and then we'll go to the committee again. Okay? Thank you very much. If you'd like to leave, if you're here for the petition, you're more than welcome. Please just obviously leave quietly, and we'll get to the next item. This is the item without petition, which is item 161 Ryfield Avenue, Hillingdon. Max, whenever you're ready.
Okay, application at 161 Ryfield Avenue. It's application for the partial retention of an outbuilding to use as ancillary storage and staff room for an existing shop. That's a takeaway, which is partly retrospective. This relates to a hot food takeaway in a small parade in a mainly residential area. There's no planning designations of note whatsoever in the vicinity of the site. It's the site plan. There's a flat above at first floor level, and part of the accommodation of that flat is at ground floor level as well. So you've got a kitchen and a conservatory at the back and a small area of amenity space, if you can see that, and that's accessed from the rear. The applicant has built this large outbuilding without permission. There's been some enforcement interest, and the proposed resolution to this planning breach is to demolish almost half of the existing outbuilding and just retain this one outbuilding with just a store and a staff room for the hot food takeaway. The application was called in. The council had some concerns about the impact on the flat at the first floor. That calling request has been withdrawn following the agreement of some conditions which address the concerns, and these are in the addendum report, so I'll just draw attention to those. one of them was covering the position of the new boundary treatment, which separated the flat and the takeaway use, and there's also one requiring a frosted glass to obscure glazing to a toilet which looks onto the amenity space for the flat. Given these additions are acceptable to officers as well, and approval is recommended of these changes.
Thank you very much, Max. Okay, who's going to take me away? Councillor Sansapuri.
Yeah. In the summary, it said that it will involve partial demolition of existing unlawful building. So why we are allowing them to keep the half of the building which is already unlawful?
Okay, well, it's a retrospective application. We consider that the application, the building as it is unacceptable, but if there's only half of it there, and it's just comprising a store and the staff room ancillary to the takeaway, that seems a reasonable scale of building and a reasonable use, and no residential accommodation is proposed, and so we're judging it on its merits.
Okay, anybody else? No? Well, someone's got to do something. Councillor Chivitar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to propose to go with the officer's recommendation.
Yeah. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Chairman and officers. I'm second.
Thank you. I just want to make sure before we go to the vote that obviously nothing is commenced until that's been knocked down. Yeah. And what's the window that they have to?
We're requiring them to do it within 3 months.
Okay, fine. So we'll keep an eye on that, and I suppose councillors will do their job considering they've been bringing it in to us. So we'll go with officers. So those in favour of officer recommendation, please indicate. Thank you. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Number 9 is 95 and 97 Willow Tree Lane, Yedding.
Okay, this is for the temporary change of use of a pair of semi-detached dwellings to children's home, maximum of 2 residents in each of the dwellings with support staff. There'll be one on-site support staff, associated external works. So there's a pair of semis there. There's no planning designation in the area relevant to the site. They're new build houses which have only recently been completed. There we are again. That's ground floor for plan. There's a parking courtyard at the front. 72 dwellings. So we have to think of this as perhaps a companion piece to the first item on the agenda. It's a proposal for a temporary permission for 5 years, and it's a council application. And our understanding is that this is just while works are undertaken at Charville Lane that this would be used, and after that period it would be put back for use as houses. There's no internal changes proposed, and the only external changes proposed are the erection of a 1.8 metre high fence around the railing around the front forecourt and some gates just for some additional security. We do have concerns that if that was in situ, there's some image if that was in situ permanently, it would have an impact on the openness of the street. So the proposal is for that to be removed once it reverts back to a dwelling and have the opener landscaped forecourt and parking area that you can see on the image just there. Yes, so it's on balance. Obviously, we're losing some housing, but also we're getting a different type of accommodation for a temporary period. It's supported by our colleagues in social care, given the need to keep children with acute needs within the borough and close to their family, and for this reason, we're recommending approval.
Thank you, Max. Like the touch of the weeds makes it all come complete. Yes, so I go to the floor. Councillor Gohill.
Just a quick question. What happens if it's still needed to be used in a temporary use past 5 years?
Come back to the committee.
They'll have to apply again to extend the time.
Okay, and I mean, my concern is that it just keeps coming back. And
we might not be here because by the time it comes back. So, so some of us probably will. So for vote.
I understand the need for this, especially along with the other side. It's not the best thing in the world that there's a slight reduction in the housing, but sometimes you have to look at the bigger picture, so I'm happy to go ahead of officer's recommendation and approve this.
Thank you, Councillor Gohill. Councillor Singh.
Thank you, Chairman and officers. I understand we need these kind of accommodations. Can we plant more trees? What do you think?
I don't think landscaping is not in the
landscaping around the building.
Are there was a landscaping condition in the original permission which has been discharged now? It doesn't look like they've. I mean, I know what you're saying about the weeds there. It doesn't look like they've completed the landscaping scheme yet, because as I remember from those plans, there was more planting involved.
Okay.
But you know. I mean,
so officers would chase that up and come back to me. Yeah.
Yes, we could.
And make sure that the plants are, obviously it's a high pollution area, that they use the correct foliage. So with that condition there, I've been proposed and seconded. Councillor Singh.
So, thank you. Second.
Yeah, thank you. All those in favour of the officer's recommendation? That's approved. And well done to officers to make sure that the condition is there to remove the wall and the gates afterwards. I like that. Thank you. We go to the next item, which is item 10. I'm going to take these in both together, 10 and 11. Okay? And we obviously, the committee realises that we have to have proposed and seconded on both items, but we're going to take the whole thing as a whole. Yeah?
Okay, this works to the Civic Centre. That's the East Wing, Middlesex Street of the building that we're in, and of course members want to do a site visit. It's probably the easiest one you'll ever have to do. You'll have a look on the way out. So series of works proposed as it's a listed building. Obviously the minutiae of refurbishment work often gets picked up in these applications. So replacement of the failed flat roof covering, which is by the parapet wall on the main building, replacement of defective PV panels and light device bases, joinery, brickwork, concrete repairs, replacement of single glazed crystal windows and with double glazed windows, and the installation of air source heat pumps to a service yard with screening. And some internal works as well to suspended ceiling within the function suite within the Middlesex building. Okay, so there we are. We know where we are. We know that it's a Grade 2 listed building. Image of the roof, you can see that that's the covering that we replaced and the solar panels. And you can see over the on the right hand side there, bottom where those vehicles are, that's the servicing yard. That's where the air source heat pump would be located in the corner of that. As that's brought up, I'll probably say it shows a bit easier. There you can see that if you see the change between the images, you can see where these the air source heat pump is being introduced. Quite a lot of dry technical drawings, which we can focus in on if necessary. But here's some images of the work which needs to be done. I think without being an expert in heritage, you can possibly agree that there is a need for these works in terms of the refurbishment. Now, our conservation officer has provided input on this. It's considered there would be less than substantial harm to this building at the very lowest end of the scale, but obviously considered on the balance with the improvements in terms of energy efficiency and the performance of the building, that those public benefits outweigh the harm to the very small harm to the listed building, and on that basis we're recommending approval on both applications.
Thank you, Max. I'm led to believe the solar panels, what's happening to those? Are they being removed?
They're being replaced like for like.
Oh, great. We can use them somewhere else. They're still working. Anyway, I'm going to put it to committee. Who's going to take me away? Go on, why don't you go on, Councillor Gohill.
Slightly tongue-in-cheek question here, Chairman, but given that the Middlesex area of the council building's already closed off, is this technically retrospective?
Yeah, unfortunately it was built there, so we can't.
No, I joke. Aside from that, I think it's a great idea. For the long-standing safety of our council assets and property, I'm very happy to approve this.
Okay.
And so go ahead with officer's recommendation on both.
Okay. Can I have a seconder, Councillor C? Sorry, legal. Sorry.
No, not very quickly. Just are we voting separately on
yes.
Sorry,
I'm just making sure that I have the same people.
Oh,
that's all. Okay, don't worry. Don't worry, Jimmy. I've got it under control. Councillor, it's not my first rodeo. Come on.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm second. I think we need this.
For both?
Yeah.
Yeah? For both. Right. So, item 10, we have a proposed and seconded. All those in agreement, please show your hands. Item 11, we have a proposed and seconded. Can we have all show of hands those approved? That's approved. Last one of the night, which is very nice to see. I don't see this very often. It's a TPO. So we love trees. So and for you tree huggers, officers wanna. I'm sure it's going to be a very short presentation. This is the tree. This is the TPO. There you go.
Okay. See, this one is straying outside of our area of expertise as planning officers, but our arboricultural colleagues have recommended that these 4 areas have. They have actually made tree preservation orders for these 4 areas shaded in brown. It's an area TPO, and there's a few individual ones you can see with the circles as well. And this is for the approval of that. There's been a couple of objections. Just residents are concerned generally about, whether they'd still be able to prune trees which are still on their property, and the maintenance concerns about that. And I think the responses in the report give some reassurance on that. It doesn't, TPO doesn't stop emergency works or pruning or anything which is to the safety of the property, and they still own the trees within which are in the properties themselves. Yep. And the TPO only covers native trees within the TPO area, so there's particular non-native trees which would be possible to fell.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Obviously, a TPO can only be with permission to fell, to prune it, isn't it? Correct? So residents will have to understand that. Can't just do it themselves like they did with that sycamore tree. Not very good news that was. Okay, so can I have a proposer, please? Yes, Councillor Sansapori.
Yeah, this application is very straightforward, so I propose
it. Seconder, Councillor Go. Oh, Councillor Bridges, we'll give you a turn. You've got your hand over. We haven't heard from you all evening, sitting there very quietly. You seconded it, do you, sir? Thank you very much. So that's proposed and seconded. All those show in favour of officer recommendation. Brilliant. Thank you very much. That closes the meeting tonight. Thank you all very much. Have a safe journey home. Thank you.